Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is a 1-month update of my new Rise hydroponic garden. This will be a 2-part video series covering the basics of my Rise garden. I'll be discussing my experience, how much I love it, and I'll also be answering a few questions that I got from a few viewers. I hope you guys find this video helpful. Stay tuned. All right, so this is currently what we've got going on in here. I've got back here, I've got my cilantro, my bronzero lettuce, which is growing like crazy. It really started shooting out once I got the learning curve of how to adjust the pH for this unit. pH and EC is very standard for all hydroponics, but you know, with anything, there's a learning curve. So I had to figure out, and this is a big unit too. So, you know, I've got 2 levels. So there's more water, there's more plants, obviously, that are going to be pulling water and nutrients and everything. So basically, I had to learn what the needs were for this guy. It wasn't a big learning curve, but you know, you follow the app, you kind of follow your gut, you look at them. Looking at your vegetation is one of the key things to let you know what is going on. And I'm trying to see if I see anything that's in bad shape. This is a little, my Thai basil is not as green as I'd like it to be on the tips. But I will say, full disclosure, I did transplant it about a week or so ago. So sometimes they have to get time to build up. But everything else that I originally started in here or transplanted in here a while ago is doing very, very well. So this is a great indication that they're happy, they're thriving. So anytime you start to see discoloration or things like that, then that's when you're like, okay, let me go ahead and check my pH and see what's going on. I've got my sage here. My chia pets were 2 little gag gifts that we got from my husband. Actually, maybe not gag, because my husband knows I like to garden and grow, and he knows I love little baby Yoda, little Grogu, for those of you who know his name from The Mandalorian. And we got my daughter, baby Groot. He's really cute. So anywho, I love this unit so much because, as you can see, I'm not only growing the things that I've gotten from Rise, my lettuce and everything. I've also, like I said, I've transplanted things from my other hydroponic unit. These are 2 jalapeno peppers. I've got this snackable red pepper from Rise. I brought my own broccoli seeds, so I do need to thin this down. This guy is looking really good in the middle, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this one out. Unfortunately, as you can see, there's a ton of space. So that is just like, if anything, that is just was one reason why it was just so worth it for me, and I love it. Again, this is another one that's growing here. Another, I think that's a cherry tomato. This is some purple basil, which I thought was the coolest thing. I actually pulled that from soil that I had. Actually not soil, it was cocoa peat, but still. I took it as a little baby seedling. It actually had the first 2 true leaves. So I would suggest that if you are going to transplant into your Rise system, that you make sure that you have a decent amount of an established root, or that it's got its second set of leaves, maybe even third. When I initially put it in there, it slumped over like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, so that's why I put this little kebab stick in there. So, but she's growing beautifully, so it doesn't need to be in there. I'm also waiting for my trellis to come. Oh, I forget which this one. Oh, so this one, I'm gonna do another video where I show you how I separate. So I didn't thin it out. Oh, that's what that is. This is not a cherry tomato. This is actually a little Bing. So what I did is I was so excited, and I didn't thin it out enough, and I ended up having 2 Bing tomatoes in the same pod, and they were growing, but as you can see, they're a little short. They're not where they should be, so that I felt like they were getting a little stunted because they were probably choking each other out. So I went on and did a little delicate surgery and separated them and put them into their, kept this one in the rise pod and then put this one in another pod. And I'll show you what I do, what I use rather, this material that fits in these rise pods perfectly, especially if you're waiting for your grow anything pods. I've got my cracky, you know, jar growing in a jar. This guy was being hidden. He wasn't getting enough light. So that's another thing you want to pay attention to, is where you're putting them, because as certain things start, like this other tomato starts to grow over, the leaves start to cover your vegetation, and it's not getting enough light. So I had to move him, and I think hopefully he'll start to sprout up. This guy, this Swiss chard, is looking gorgeous. Look at that root, or not the root, but the stem. I just love that beautiful color on there. This is growing beautifully. My lettuce, some more basil, another purple basil. I just wanted to see, I like to do little tests. So I wanted to see how it did in cracky versus in the rise. They're both doing pretty well. The cracky, you can see that the little cotyledon are losing a bit of their color, but that's fine. That happens anyway as they start to age, I believe. So, and I just threw some other stuff in there because I didn't have the heart as I was thinning it to throw them away, but I don't know that that tomato is going to make it. This is a little extra sage. And that's probably too much. I really should thin this guy down, but it's just so pretty and I hate to get rid of it. But it's doing well, so I'm just kind of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'm sure at some point I'll want to take this out, take a few. It's a lot of sage in there. I need to thin it out to a few more. And I can probably, I still have another couple more pods left. I have a personal rise coming too, so I might end up moving that into there. So this is everything that's growing in the garden. If I can back up and show you, there's everything in there. So it's lovely. And I've seen some, like, this is nothing. I've seen some people growing stuff that's just like monstrous and like everything is green. So I'm waiting for that in purple. So I'm waiting for this to fill up more and see what we get. So this is really fun. Oh, one last thing. I've also got cute little plants in here that I'm growing. I love this because I don't have to use my windowsill. Even though I would look really pretty, I don't get a lot of sunlight, like direct sunlight. I get sunlight into my home, but not a lot of direct sunlight. So this is perfect for me, especially with starting seeds and so forth. This is going to be a really great spring and summer. So this guy's looking really awesome too. So this is everything that's in the garden. I'm over the moon about it. Again, as you know, I was so happy to get it. I've been researching this product for a couple of months and comparing it to other products. And I felt like the Rise was the best one for me. I like the way it looks. It's something that can look nice in my home. So I also wanted to do this too because I had a viewer, Casey, thank you so much for watching, who had a few questions, and she was comparing this between the AeroGarden, I think it's the Farm or something. Just for me off the bat, I like this one so much better because I think the Farm really sat a lot lower to the ground. I feel like this is a bit more aesthetically pleasing. I like the customer service. I think that, Rise Garden is a new company, so I really believe that they're aiming to really try to please everybody and to accommodate everyone's needs. I've been very happy with the seeds, the germination. Again, we all know that it's nature, so they're not always viable, which is fine, but so far so good. Knock on a little bit of wood. I haven't had any issues. Everything that I've planted has grown, but not only grown, but just like has exceeded the amount of growth that I expected or anticipated. So I've been very happy with that. The prices are definitely similar. So I think another difference is that with the AeroGarden, the lights kind of move up and down. I assume that that's for the benefit of when they're a little younger. And that makes sense because, when they're a little younger, you don't want them to have to reach so far for the light. I will say I have not had any issues with leggy plants or anything growing, so the light has been great for that. I also like that the way that it's constructed, the lights, people have asked me about the lights. I'm not blinded by these lights. Like when it's sitting like this, you do have a dimmer where it can go to different levels. So I did tone it down a bit just for video purposes, but on my eyes, it does not bother my eyes. People have asked, do you need to wear glasses or what have you? So I haven't had a problem with that. Cleaning, to me, it seems like it's going to be a very simple thing to do. You've got these trays that you can lift up easily, and there's like a basin under here, a basin under the lower one. I'm assuming that these tubes really don't need to be pulled apart. You can probably just get, like I've seen people with like those pipe cleaners that you can just get down and clean into them if they're that bad, but it really shouldn't get to that point. There's little hoses in here that you can clean out and maybe soak them as well. But I'll do a whole video on that later. But I saw a cool way where the woman literally just took these trays out, and she had like these bins, like the packing bins that you can get at any store, Walmart or Big Lots or what have you, and you put water in them and you just let the plant sit in it while you're cleaning everything else out. So I thought that that was a really cool thing to do. So I'll probably do that next month because I've only had it for about a month. It really doesn't need a deep cleaning at this point. So I just clean the top part here and there, and just, you know, I don't, everybody's house is different. I haven't found much dust on it, which is nice. I've got hardwood floors, so that makes a difference. We used to have carpeting, so I'm sure I probably would have had a little bit more dust. Again, as far as I want to go back to the location, I like that it's further up away from the ground. I have 2 dogs. I know a lot of people who have pets worry about them getting into their garden or what have you. So that's one thing that I do like. I like that it's off the ground. I like that it looks like a piece of furniture. I like that it looks pleasant in your home. One of the main things that I really, really love is that not only can I grow what has come with the garden, I can also grow my own things. So what you'll see is I had additional pods left over, So now Rise Garden does do a grow anything that you want. I think that was a question that was posed to me. They do have empty pods with the growing medium in them that you can get. And at the time, I hadn't ordered them, and I was just like, oh, you know, I want to just wait. And then I just got excited because I started having other items from my other hydroponic systems that were growing too tall into the light. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to transplant them. It's the middle of January, snow on the ground. I can't put them outside. So, I'm going to use my Rise Garden. So I got excited. I had additional pods left over. So somebody on the group told me about this General Hydroponics Rapid Rooter. You get this from Amazon. It comes in this bag, $14, and they fit the Rise Garden pods beautifully. So they come in this bag, and they're pre-moistened, so that's why you want to keep them locked, zipped, or whatever. And so you get these little pods, you put them in here, and they fit perfectly. So you can start new seeds, you can buy your own seeds, start new seeds in here, or if you don't want to start seeds, as I have done, and I'm planning on doing a video with that as well. The material is very spongy, so it's very easy to tear apart. So if you have a seed that had, or a plant that had already been started. So for instance, I'm gonna make a little bit of a mess. For instance, my lavender, this was just growing really tall into one of my units, so into the lights, because I have it in a shelving unit and the light wouldn't go up further. Oh, it smells so good. I love that when you're touching herbs and the different plants that their smell comes off. So it's just a very lovely scent. So basically what I did was I took it out of there, and then you can put it in here, and that's what I did with this guy. You're gonna want to I put the foil on it to keep out any additional light so that you don't get algae growing in there. That's not going to be very desirable. So, but it's just wonderful. And then you go ahead and put it in there. Make sure you snap it when you're doing it, and then you're all set. Okay, so another thing I want to point out is one of the coolest things that I really, really do love, and I don't know, and I can't compare this to any other system because the hydroponic systems that I do have, the other air gardens that I have, don't have this function. I can't speak to that, but I can only speak to Rise, which I love, love, love about this because it's Wi-Fi enabled, and it has a lovely app that connects to your phone, and it does notify you when it's time to add water or nutrients, or it tells you to check your water level and like, oh, your water level's too high, or it's time to give your garden some love. So like it's saying now, it's saying your plants in your hydro garden need some nutrients. So we're going to work on that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click this guy. It says I need nutrients. And so you'll open up this meter, and it's the same exact meter that they send you, which I love that. They sent you this meter. It had batteries, it had backup batteries, which was cool. And I will say, full disclosure, the batteries that came in the unit, I think that maybe they had been sitting on the shelf for a bit, but they were a little weren't as strong as they needed to be, I believe, because once I changed them, my readings were better. I do have another that I use to compare, and once I changed the batteries, everything was on point. There's also this general hydroponics kit that you can buy. I've talked about this in another video where I call it an analog version. It doesn't require batteries. It's literally just drops. And some people use the test strips, which is great too, and helpful as a backup. But so far I've been very happy with this guy once I changed the batteries. So keep that in mind. So you'll start off by turning your unit, your reader on. It measures your EC, pH, and temperature. So the EC basically, without going too far above my level of understanding and anybody else's, perhaps someone else can explain a little further, but my basic general on the ground understanding of EC is the amount of dissolved nutrients that you have in your water. And that should be at different levels. The one beautiful thing about the app is that if you have a question, it shows you here. So for instance, where I am in my garden currently, the target EC should be 160. Currently mine is 190, which I don't think is too horrible. So I'm going to put that in 192 actually. And then you just simply tap for the pH button, and it says 607. Maybe I should put that point in there. And then my temperature, you can do Celsius or Fahrenheit. I've got 24.3. It'll do a calculation, and then it'll make sure that you turn that sensor off, because you do leave it in the water. Make sure you turn it off. Then it's going to tell me what to add in. So this guy is telling me to add some pH. So I'm believing that that wants me to take my pH down. They do give you the pH balance, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later. They also give you the Sprout and the Thrive. Now the pH balance, I'm assuming, because I couldn't remember earlier if it automatically takes it down. They don't have a pH up or down, and again, I'll mention that a little later. I like my pH up and down so I can manage it a little better, but this one is seems to just take it down. So, and I'm assuming that since it was reading at about 6, it wants it to go down a little bit, because the ideal pH for growing fruits and vegetables, now they're all different. Some may have different levels, like for instance raspberries, or I believe raspberries or blueberries outside need to be a little bit more acidic, whereas some others need to be a little bit more base or neutral. So, but a good baseline is between 5.5 and 6.5 at the highest. And if you go any lower than that or any higher than that, a thing that's called nutrient lockout happens, where the plants are not able to take up nutrients. That's one thing I like about hydroponics a lot, is that you see changes almost immediately, like literally from one day to the next. If it's not getting enough nutrients, if the water is too low, or if something's going on, there could be a disease, a bacteria, or fungus, you'll start to see the leaves, like tips of the leaves, looking back. Luckily I don't have any issues right now, or it would show you, I think I did talk earlier about how the Thai basil that I transplanted into here is not looking as green as it was in my other unit. But again, that can happen because I moved it from one unit to the next, and sometimes you got to give it a little grace to get reestablished, especially when they're a little bigger. It may take a little longer. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But that's the beauty with hydroponics, is that you know almost immediately that something is going on. So you'll know, hey, I need to add nutrients, I need to adjust my pH, may need to even change my water out there. So I will not be adding the pH because I'm happy with where the pH is. And over time, your garden is like your babies. Like, you're gonna know, like, you know, sometimes where a doctor will say, oh, you need this, and then you're gonna no, they've been doing okay with this, so I'm just gonna leave it for a day or two and see what happens. So that's what I'm gonna do with my pH for right now. It may need me to adjust if I add more nutrients. And see, that's funny, it didn't ask for nutrients, it just says top the garden off with more water, which I need to do. Oh, and it says back to garden, so it didn't have me add nutrients this time around. So it's going to know. And you know what? And I'm assuming that it's based on that EC measurement, the amount of dissolved nutrients that I have in here. My app is telling me, oh, you know what? You've got enough nutrients in there for right now. You don't need to add any more. But again, so I'm going to check. I tend to check it every day and just say, depending on what the level is, I adjust it up or down. Depending on what the level is. So I've been looking at this for about a week now, and I think last Friday or last Saturday when I did my last nutrient addition, that is when I did adjust my pH. So, I mean, it's been pretty good. It's been like 5.5, and today it's only just now gone up to the 6 mark. So maybe in a couple of days it will start ticking up a bit, and that's when I will add my pH down, or I'll go ahead and add the rise version of it and see. But so yeah, so that's kind of where that is. Oh yeah, a quick note about the temperature. I forget what the baseline temperature should be on your reader, and basically that the lower your temperature is, the better opportunity that you have to not grow algae. So it definitely wants to monitor your temperature to make sure that you're not in danger of algae growing, bacteria, or what have you. And that's, again, not a baseline thing. That's just something where, depending on where you live or where you have it in your house. For me, my house in the wintertime is very dry, so it's not very humid, not very hot. Even though it's winter, we don't have the heat up very high, especially on this floor. So there's going to be a lot of things that come into account that will affect your temperature reading. I do oftentimes see people who have little personal fans that they use that they just clamp onto the system and just kind of blow to keep things nice and cool, to keep the humidity down. It also helps when you've got blossoming plants or flowers like tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers. That can actually kind of help with the pollination, because it's going to be gently tapping. It's like the wind outside. It does what Mother Nature does, although I just usually just kind of do the tapping method myself to get them pollinated, but the fan is very helpful for that. My goal with these videos is to try to give you like the step-by-step basics of how things are working for me as a real user, how I like it. Again, Casey, to answer your question, I love it. I love this so far. Again, I love that I've got so much space. The light is nice and even, I feel, and it's a broad base of light. The seed choices, I really think that there were some seed pods that I didn't even know how to pronounce. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, I've seen this in the grocery store. I eat this stuff. So it's actually pretty cool to learn the names of the different things that you're growing. Like, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. Minzuna mustard. I don't know. I've seen this. It looks gorgeous. It's growing like crazy, which I do need to kind of start trimming things down. This one, I think it's like Paris Island Cos lettuce. I didn't know that's what that was called. I'm just like, oh, it's lettuce. So, you know, bronze arrow lettuce. I just call it lettuce. More lettuce greens with the bronzy color. So, but arugula, I knew knew what arugula was, but it's still, I mean, it's just so cool that they have so many different types of vegetables that you can grow. So that's one thing that I do like about Rise that I don't find with the others, is that a variety of seeds that they have are just amazing. And the fact, like legit, like seriously, that I can grow cucumbers. I've got cucumbers and I think I have some peas and I'm growing tomatoes. Like it's sick that, you know, like we've got snow outside. My husband's saying that they're calling for snow tonight. Meanwhile, I'm growing things that I would have to be waiting another 3 months to grow. All right, guys, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any other questions, go ahead and leave your questions and comments in the comment section. I'm learning as I go. I've been doing hydroponics for a while, so I'm pretty confident in what works and what doesn't work. But you know, there's, again, as I mentioned, there's always going to be a learning curve. So with this unit, it's different from any unit I've ever used, but it is very user-friendly. The app is great. Everything is just great. Again, the customer service, the people are very kind, very friendly, and that so far, you know, they're aiming to please, and I really think that they're knocking it out of the park with this one. So again, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And again, here's wishing you great eats and happy gardening, and always, always, always don't forget to be kind. All right, guys, take care.